Jonathan Holt says, in your and Dave's experience, what can someone on low carb and high LDL do to bring it down? Eat more carbs. How many? Examples, please. Dave, why don't you start with that?
Yeah, so I have a thread on this, but I also have a blog post, a recent blog post where I basically just copy the thread out. For sure, if you're uncomfortable with high LDL, it doesn't take much swapping out of fat calories for likewise carb calories. So you take out some fat, you bring in some carbs. The idea behind the energy model as to why this is that now you're repleting your hepatic glycogen stores, which is to say your liver glycogen. And therefore, this is going to shut down more of that lipolysis I was talking about earlier in this broadcast. So there's less need for the body to traffic as much fatty acids because it feels it's met a certain threshold of stores of glycogen. I would argue successful of scenarios relative to the ones I'm going to mention after, which of course I'm sure you've heard. Fiber, as you bring fiber up, that can be, or at least anecdotally, we found that can often bring down LDL. I think that's because it's actually more glycemic than is assumed, especially soluble fiber. I'm actually doing an experiment on that soon, by the way, to find out. There's of course a higher preponderance of polyunsaturated fatty acids, particularly if it's in the form of oils, but I have to admit, I'm not a huge advocate of that. I think a little bit's fine, but there's some people I know who are like consuming a fairly large amount of the fat in their diet from seed oils. I can't say that I'm as excited about that, but it does work for bringing down LDL. And of course, there's resistance training, which I would also bring up, even done direct experiments with. And I believe that that's because you quite literally are endocytosing, but that is to bring in LDL particles directly for muscle growth and repair. That, at least that's my existing hypothesis until we can get tracer studies behind it. And of course, there's medication. You can always work with your doctor. Even a low dose statin can typically succeed at bringing LDL levels lower. This isn't to say any of the things I just said above, I either push or push against. It's more just as, these are the things that we tend to find, and it's kind of in no particular order.
I will make a plug. Overall, I would agree. There's a couple of things I had not heard about, like resistance training and the seed oils. I will make a plug for resistance training. The most common thing I've run into is people adding a little bit, doing that carb replacement that you were talking about. I will make the plug though for resistance training, especially for us baby boomers. One of the biggest driving factors of insulin resistance, prediabetes, diabetes, and cardiovascular inflammation is loss of muscle mass. And being a cute little old lady or a cute little old man is not that. It may be cute, but it's dangerous and a major unrecognized driver of health. So one of the big things I do with my folks is, yes, we need an aerobic base, but when you get my age, 64, you cannot neglect resistance training.